If you're anything like me, you grew up playing either real pinball machines at an arcade or good old Microsoft Pinball on Windows 98. Dial up internet and the evil blue screen. Times were simpler, weren't they? Well, let's take a trip down memory lane and play some pinball. In this sketch, we're going to launch ourselves into some more pharmacokinetics, this time plasma concentration and the therapeutic range, sometimes called the therapeutic window. Concentration. Something we definitely need to stop those balls from being eliminated from play. Let's start with the dose response relationship. Well, that's pretty easy. The greater the dose, the greater the response, right? Well, not really. When we look at the dose response relationship, it's actually the concentration at the active site, like enzymes or cell membrane receptors, rather than the dose that drives the response. Therefore, to get the response we want, we have to ensure the exposure profile of the drug is appropriate and will achieve a therapeutic concentration at the active site. Look at our launched ball here. It's striking the action zone, exactly where we need it. We still have 4 balls lined up, liken this to the dose, but if they're not hitting the action zone, like drug reaching the active site, then they won't contribute to the response. Kinetic dynamic? Sounds pretty retro. The dose response relationship involves both pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. But how? Well, think of it as a two-step process. Firstly, we have the relationship between the dosage regimen, think dose, form, frequency, and route of administration, and the concentration achieved in the body over a period of time. That's the pharmacokinetic part. Secondly, we look at the pharmacodynamics, which covers the relationship between the concentration of the drug and its effect on the body, including development of adverse events. Simply put, pharmacokinetics is what the body does to the drug, and pharmacodynamics is what the drug does to the body. Ugh, it's getting a little stale in here. I don't think anyone's visited this arcade in a while. Let's let some air in. The therapeutic range or window is the range of drug plasma concentration that provides a therapeutic effect whilst limiting adverse effects and toxicity. Plasma concentrations below the minimum effective concentration or MEC may result in undertreatment, whereas plasma concentrations above the maximum tolerated concentration or MTC increase the risk of adverse effects and toxicity, often without any further increase in the desired response. You can see how these two concepts are related in our graph. We can estimate the onset of action of a drug by measuring the time it takes for plasma drug concentrations to reach the minimum effective concentration, which we've marked in our graph. Our ball has also hit our action line, symbolizing our minimum effective concentration. And we can estimate the duration of action by measuring the time that plasma concentration remains within the therapeutic range. Action ceases once the concentration falls below the minimum effective concentration, or our action line in our pinball machine. To maintain a therapeutic effect, we must keep the drug plasma concentration within the therapeutic range. Every single ball eliminated. Never got the hang of this game. So, how do we keep the plasma concentration within the therapeutic range or window? We have to understand the elimination characteristics of the drug, which in turn will help us determine how often we need to give the drug. Some drugs, like morphine, are eliminated rapidly and have to be given multiple times a day to maintain pain relief, whereas digoxin is eliminated slowly and can be given once a day to maintain desired plasma concentration. Think of our eliminated balls here as eliminated drug molecules. To keep playing, we need to get more balls into play or more drug into the system. Let's put some coins in and get some balls lined up to play. Generally, to reach the therapeutic window, a drug must be given repeatedly for its concentration to increase and then stabilize in the body. If a drug is administered at a fixed dose and time interval, it will accumulate over time, yet we must be mindful that the dose given must not result in plasma concentrations above the maximum tolerated concentration, or MTC. See our black line? It symbolizes a smaller dose regimen. We can see that the first 3 doses are below the minimum effective concentration, our lower white line, yet we reach stabilization within the therapeutic window, our yellow area, soon after. With the higher dose regimen, our orange line, we reach the therapeutic window on the second dose, yet quickly exceed the maximum tolerated concentration and increase the risk of adverse effects and toxicity. We've quickly landed in the danger zone. That might be game over. Like all arcades, you've got your top scorers and not such top scorers. I'm coming in second, but long behind Steven here, but still beating Ben by a few hundred points. Ha! Let our individual scores here remind you of people's individual variable responses to drugs. You shouldn't be surprised by the fact that humans are very genetically diverse. This has ramifications for drug dosing and response, meaning for some drugs we have to individualize the dose to reach and stay within the therapeutic window. This is not such an issue with drugs that have a wide therapeutic window because we can tolerate a wide range of plasma concentrations, achieve the desired response, and still limit adverse effects. It's a different story for drugs with a narrow therapeutic index, where a one dose fits all approach can cause serious issues. In this case, we use therapeutic drug monitoring, or TDM. Simply put, TDM allows us to measure the level of the drug or degree of response of a drug to ensure it is within the therapeutic window. The dose is adjusted based on the result. But how do we know if a drug has a narrow therapeutic index? How can we work that out? We can calculate this by working out the ratio of the dose that produced toxicity in 50% of patients, or TD50, to the dose that produced a favorable or effective response in 50% of patients, ED50. If a drug has a therapeutic index of 50, it means the toxic dose is 50 times greater than the effective dose. Drugs with a narrow therapeutic index may require therapeutic drug monitoring. Digoxin and warfarin are examples of drugs that have narrow therapeutic indexes and require therapeutic drug monitoring. I don't know about you, but sport is not my game, but somehow still coming in second. Let our Titanium Bowl Touchdown Edition 50th anniversary remind you of the equation you can use to calculate the therapeutic index of a drug. Before we go, we have to remind you of the rules. They must be adhered to. Adherence plays an important role in maintaining a plasma concentration within the therapeutic window. If the patient is poorly adherent, the plasma concentration may fall below the minimum effective concentration, resulting in undertreatment. When a drug plasma concentration falls below the minimum effective concentration, problems may arise. For example, if treating an infection with antibiotics, the emergence of drug resistant bacteria may occur. So, when assessing a patient for a poor response, consider both potential pharmacokinetic problems, for example, rapid elimination or absorption problems, or poor adherence. I'm all out of quarters, so let's sum up. Response is determined by the amount or concentration of drug that reaches the site of action or active site, not necessarily the dose that is administered. The dose response relationship involves both pharmacokinetics, like dose, dosage form, frequency, route of administration, and plasma concentration, as well as pharmacodynamics, the relationship between the concentration of drug and its effect on the body, including adverse events. The therapeutic range or window is the range of drug plasma concentration that provides a therapeutic effect whilst limiting adverse effects and toxicity. Plasma concentrations below the minimum effective concentration, or MEC, may result in undertreatment, whereas plasma concentrations above the maximum tolerated concentration, or MTC, increase the risk of adverse effects and toxicity. The onset of action is the point at which the plasma concentration exceeds the minimum effective concentration, and the duration of action is the time spent inside the therapeutic window. Dosing frequency is determined by elimination. Rapid elimination means more frequent dosing, whereas slower elimination requires less frequent dosing. Smaller doses make it slower to reach the minimum effective concentration, but keep plasma concentrations below the maximum tolerated concentration, so our plasma concentration stabilizes within the therapeutic window. Higher doses, on the other hand, mean we reach minimum effective concentration faster, but quickly exceed maximum tolerated concentration and risk toxicity. For some drugs with a narrow therapeutic index like digoxin and warfarin, we need to individualize dosing to reach and stay within the therapeutic window. Therapeutic drug monitoring is often required for narrow therapeutic index drugs. And finally, adherence plays an important role in maintaining a plasma concentration within the therapeutic window. If a patient is poorly adherent, the plasma concentration will fall below the minimum concentration, resulting in undertreatment. So, always check patient adherence if therapeutic failure is occurring. Doesn't look like I'm beating Stephen today. Make sure you check out our other sketches in our pharmacokinetic series. I can't promise we'll be playing pinball again, but there's plenty more games to play, right?